Hello everyone, it's David again, and I am doing Season 2, Episode 9, The Coming of Shadows. Probably one of my more favorite episodes. Lots of action, lots to talk about. On a personal note, I may have mentioned that one of my dentists had found a lesion on the inside of my mouth, and that I was hoping it was all going to come back okay. Got the biopsy results of that lesion back, and it appears to be a whole lot of nothing. Evidently, I bite my inside of my cheek when I'm asleep, and so that's what caused the lesion. It's not cancerous. There's no fungal infection. All came back okay. So it looks like I might have to get a mouth guard for myself. And you'll see me moving stuff around. My cat is investigating. My new 4-month-old Pasica, which is Romanian for cat. And there's Pasica. You can see him. He is really a wonderful little kitten. Though last night he did discover the joys of toilet paper. And so he had quite a lot of fun scratching the toilet paper. Oh, go behave yourself and go pester the other cat. Make lots of noise. Okay. No, he's going to come right back on the stairs and bother me. Anyway, starts off, we are in the royal court of the Centauri Prime. The Emperor is talking about his wishes to visit Babylon 5, even though he's not in the best of health. We learn that's because he wants to deliver a personal apology for his family's action during the Centauri occupation of Narn, and he wants to deliver it personally to Ambassador Jakar. We zip on back. Jakar is protesting the visit to Sheridan, but he's rebuffed by Sheridan because it's like, hey, the Centauri Emperor wants to come here. It helps the folks back at home actually think we're doing something. So he is rebuffed by Sheridan. And we cue on to the entrance for the episode. Quite a few actors here that some will make appearances a little bit later. Frederick Laney, L-E-H-N-E, does the part of a ranger. Born February 3rd, 1959, age 62 in Buffalo, New York. He's been an actor since 1978, and get this, he has been in over 200 films, miniseries, TV episodes, and stage productions. All the way from his native Buffalo, New York, all the way to Portland, Oregon. So, quite a busy guy. Malachi Throne, as the Centauri Prime Minister, he passed away sadly at the age of 84. Lots of film, theater, and also commercials for Z-Bart, that anti-rusting thing that people used to put on their cars. Really popular up in my birth state of Alaska because we use a lot of road salt, and that just rusts the heck out of vehicles. Back then everything was, like cast iron or something that would rust quite easily. And so, now we've got all kinds of fancy plastics and stuff like that that'll prevent the rust from completely destroying your car. We also, now back to Babylon 5, we're going to zip on. Jeff Conway's in this episode. He was born October 5th, 1950, May 27 of 2011. I'm not going to get into too much of his CV because he is such a major character, and I've covered him before. I don't want to bore you completely. Got his start on Taxi, known also, let's see here, Grease. When he was doing one of his Grease productions, he fell off the stage and torqued his back. And that sadly has started a period, long bouts of sobriety with periods of relapse. Kind of an ugly scenario. I may have mentioned before, I myself am a recovering alcoholic. I've done 2 stints in rehab, sober this January, and I'm recording this in November, but if I don't screw it up in the next couple months, it'll be 18 years. So I get where Jeff Conway is coming from. He probably died of what we call aspiration pneumonia. He was on Celebrity Rehab, that show that was on for a while until Dr. Drew had to pull the plug because he kept getting blamed for all the celebrity deaths that were going on. And it's like, people, you have to understand, to reach my level of like 5+ years, less than 8% of people who go into rehab reach my level of sobriety. So, it's got a 92% relapse rate. 92 to 95% relapse rate. So it's not Dr. Drew's fault. Jeff Conway ultimately is the one who's responsible, and he died of what we call aspiration pneumonia. Having been a nurse on a respiratory floor, we treated that a lot. And basically what it is, you kind of throw up a little bit, and for some reason it either gets stuck in here or something happens. You're either passed out or what have you. You basically end up choking on your own vomit, and it goes down into your lung. Very common. You'll have a right lower lobe pneumonia because your right bronchial branch is a little bit higher up. So anything that gets up there first will go to the right side. So right lower lobe is almost diagnostic for what we call aspiration pneumonia. Very difficult to treat. You can get very sick very quickly. I've seen people go from normal to 103.5 and barely hanging on for life in less than 24 hours. That's how quickly it can happen. So unfortunately, Jeff Conway's passed away. William Forward appears as Lord Refa. I've covered him earlier, so I'm not going to mention him too much. A guy named Turhan Bey, you've seen him a lot. He's the Centauri Emperor. He passed away at the age of 90. Did not know this, but he and I were born exactly 50 years apart. He was born March 30th, 1922. I was born March 30th, 1972. Kind of a weird little thing there. Passed away in 2012. He was 90. He is was a Turkish Czech Jew. He was in the army for 18 months during World War II. Did a lot of entertainment kind of stuff. He also stars as a Minbari Terval. He passed away due to Parkinson's disease. Back on to Babylon 5 world. We see there's a plot being concocted. Refa wants Londo to make a speech downgrading the Emperor and position so that he can position his people into power. If I was Londo, I would take a hard pass on that one because he's going to end up sticking his neck out. He'll be the first one on the chopping block. Despite what Refa says, don't worry, I'll take care of you. A lot of times I'll take care of you means I'll visit you while you're on death row. Anyway, ends up after Veer leaves, Refa leaves, Londo looks at Veer and says, does this make you uncomfortable? And, Veer's like, yes, it does make me uncomfortable. And Londo's like, well, for once we're in agreement. Veer is kind of like what we call a Jiminy Cricket. If you've ever seen the Mickey Mouse cartoons, little Jiminy Cricket, he's supposed to be your moral guide. It will also say too, sometimes you'll see a little angel on someone's shoulder and a little devil, and the angel's whispering the good stuff in your ear of what you should do, and the devil's whispering the stuff that you shouldn't do. Like, you should go out tonight and drink yourself into oblivion, and the angel's saying, no, stay at home. Your girlfriend or your boyfriend wants to meet up with you and have dinner and a romantic evening together. That's kind of basically Veer, his little job in Babylon 5 is to be Londo's moral compass. Londo unfortunately ignores Veer at almost every turn. But we zip on over. The Centauri Emperor arrives on Babylon 5 under heavy armed guard. The Centauri Emperor asks Dr. Franklin about Kosh because he seems to have a little bit of a fetish with the Vorlons. I kind of sympathize with him because I'm sure you've guessed by now I'm a Kosh-ophile. Is that a word? You know, I like anything to do with Kosh, or Vorlon-ophile. Is that a more appropriate term? I guess. But they're all Kosh, so it doesn't make any difference. So anyway, we learned that none of the Centauri expeditions sent into the Vorlon space have ever returned. Now, it makes you, do the Vorlons just kidnap these guys and take them and keep them, or do they just wipe them out? So, because we know that Leto was kept and experimented on and stuff, so I'm wondering what happened to all these people that have been sent into Vorlon space never to return. If any of you have any theories, write it down below, because I don't know. I can go either way. They're all wiped out and never heard from again, or they were all taken by the Vorlons and either experimented on or adjusted or just given a quiet life out in the countryside, with no access to a telephone landline system. Anyway, the Narn Colony have endorsed, we learned that the Colony is the Narn kind of circle of power, have endorsed the plan of Jakar to kill the Centauri Emperor. So we zip on in, and the Centauri Emperor is talking to Sheridan, and Sheridan reveals that he joined before the planetary draft. He kind of wanted to be a part of something bigger than himself. So if any of you have been in the military, can you put down below, what did you join? Were you drafted? What was your experience like? And put that down in the comments section. Did you want to be part of something bigger than yourself? My brother-in-law, who is married to my second oldest sister, he joined the Navy. He was not, even though I think the draft was just beginning to end. It's right at that point, but he voluntarily joined the Navy. To help pay for some of the schooling and everything, and to, get experience there. But anyway, and spent 21 years in the Navy, I think, and then ended up retiring at the age of 39. So, and some really good benefits too, because he was a lieutenant, an officer in the Navy. We zip on over, and Jakar's making his last will and testament, and he leaves his book of Jaquan to Natoth in hopes of her eventual enlightenment. It kind of reminds me of the question of the Centauri Emperor. Like, have you ever had a moment of your life flashing before your eyes, and you kind of review your life's decisions kind of in a hurry? I guess the closest episode I can come to, pretty damn close, was I was coming home from play practice in high school. I was a junior, and sure enough, I looked off as I'm crossing the crosswalk to get to my home. I look over my left shoulder, and I'm like, damn, those headlights are bright. And all of a sudden, a fraction of a second later, pow, and I'm on a 3/4-ton GMC pickup truck, and here I am riding this guy's hood for about a second and a half before it throws me off the other side. According to my friend Ethan, who was going the other direction, I was hit at about 20 to 25 miles an hour, and I was thrown about 25 to 30 feet up into the air before I landed in a mud puddle of all places. And, kind of half dazed, and I'm screaming for my friend Ethan. Just so happened it was on a corner right where there was a 911 or an old style telephone booth. This was right before the age of cell phones in 1988, I believe it was, if I remember my timeline. And so my friend is screaming at me, I'm on the phone, I'm calling for an ambulance, stay right there, don't move. And of course, as I'm riding on this guy's hood ornament, my life does the typical flash before your very eyes kind of a scenario. Very unsettling. That night, as I'm in the hospital in recovery, just with a nasty, nasty concussion, but otherwise alive, and they're holding me overnight, and so I get a few hours to kind of sleep, and quite an experience having your life do that. And it literally does replay just like a big, like a movie camera, just flip, 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 and you go right through your life, and the choices that you make. It really does affect you for quite some time afterwards. We learn that there are 4 Centauri women to follow the Emperor, though I don't know I ever saw them with Londo when he was Emperor, but maybe I was wrong. When the Emperor goes away, 2 follow and 2 stay. These women are all telepaths, and they all have been joined since birth, so that the royal court knows what's going on, and the Emperor knows what's going on back and forth. Right before the reception, however, the Centauri Emperor has a medical crisis, and he ends up in the med bay. And poor Jakar's kind of flummoxed because he was planning on killing the guy, and here is the guy having the nerve to die on his own accord. So Dr. Franklin gives him a message and kind of a deathbed confession. Having been a nurse, I've heard a lot of deathbed confessions. Almost all of them center around relations between parents and their children. So my advice to everybody is, don't leave unfinished business with your parents or with your children. Always finish whatever it is you got to finish it. Because you never know. I was at play practice at school, 11th grade. I had no idea I was going to be riding a pickup truck as a hood ornament a few minutes later. And I could have very easily, if it was a modern day truck, that I would have been plowed right under that sucker, and it would have been run right over the top of me and probably killed me. I just got so lucky in that whole thing. But anyway, kind of a deathbed confession. He gives Dr. Franklin a message. Now, it makes you wonder, what would have happened if the Emperor had lived for 24 more hours? Do you think the Narn and Centauri, instead of going off to war, would have found a way to peace? Or I think the shadows would have manipulated something. So I think the Emperor, sadly, was not going to have much luck there. We zip on over to a Narn Colony in Sector 14, and Londo has Morden and his shadow allies take it out. I mean, if you like battle scenes, here's one for you. So, anyway, Veer vehemently opposes, but Londo basically threatens, almost to skin Veer if he doesn't go and get Morden. And, of course, Quadrant 14 is wiped out. And Londo also arranges for Refa to have the Centauri move in and take over. So then the second force that comes in, the reinforcement for the Nines, comes in and sees a bunch of Centauri there and a dead colony world. Well, what conclusion would you come to? I would say, yep, there was our old enemy again. We go in, and Dr. Franklin comes into Jakar and delivers an apology from the Centauri Emperor. And Jakar gets the feels, which he will regret not too far distant future. Londo has a nightmare about the future, and you're going to see that hand reaching out that Elric was talking about. That's kind of, and that dream vision replays over and over. It's a recurring motif for Londo, about the hand coming out from the sun and all the victims of Londo. A ranger comes in and delivers a message from Commander Sinclair, a warning of the Great Darkness, and tells Michael Garibaldi about the Rangers, who they are and what they're doing, and Michael should give them free pass to do what they're going to do. So, we zip on over and out into the open. The Narn send news to Jakar about the Centauri shadow attack on Quadrant 14. 250,000 Narns live there, and of course Jakar is absolutely incensed because just a few minutes earlier, Londo and he shared a drink to the health of the Emperor, as Londo knew they were launching an attack right at that exact moment. We zip on in, and Sinclair states to Michael Garibaldi, heavily memmed, so stay close to the Vorlon and watch out for shadows. They move when you're not looking at them. That they move when you're not looking at them, that is heavily memmed. Why I'm repeating it. Centauri Emperor, he has always wanted to see a Vorlon, and he's not going to get the chance. And he's depressed, and he closes his eyes, and he opens up, and there, upside down, is Ambassador Kosh. So if you see a mem with an upside down Vorlon, that's what it's referring to. And the Centauri Emperor asks, how will this end? And Kosh replies, in fire. In that heavily Vorlon, in fire, kind of dramatic thing that he's known for. So if you see a mem with an upside down Vorlon or the phrase in fire, that's what it's referring to. The Emperor tells, or Refa wants to tell the Emperor about the attack. The Emperor shoos him away and says, Londo, come here, says something to him, and then dies. Londo lies to the assembled guests and dignitaries there, and Refa is like, hey, what did the Emperor really say? And he says that you and I are both damned. It's like, well, small price to pay for immortality is Refa's response. Zip on in, and Sheridan calls for a council meeting to kind of force things out in the open. He knows that whatever this race is that's behind these attacks, they don't want to yet come out into the open. And so he says basically that Earth is going to send observers to a colony to monitor the civilian population and to investigate how the colony fell so quickly. And Londo says, well, look, if I talk to my government, I'm going to convince them that the civilians should all be let go. They let loose. You know, and if we do that, then there's not going to be a need for observers. Wouldn't you agree? And Sheridan says, well, in that instance, yeah, sure, I agree. And of course, we all know it's because Londo doesn't want the shadows made public yet. He hasn't been given the go-ahead. As the meeting is kind of winding down, we see Jakar kind of come in with that's kind of a steel resolve, I guess, would be the look. And he basically delivers a declaration of war against the Centauri. So now we have that fight is kind of getting out in the open, but not completely out in the open. The shadows haven't made their presence known yet, but the pieces are putting into place real quickly. Everything's starting to fall into order. And we zip on in, and the Lord Refa is talking to Londo, and they're congratulating themselves. And he says the Emperor's nephew, we later will find out, is Cartagia, is going to claim the throne, and I guess he appreciates all the help Londo's, or going to appreciate, or made to appreciate. Basically, he's going to be a puppet of Refa. So Refa thinks. And we zip on in, and sure enough, Michael Garibaldi tells, I believe it was Sheridan and Delenn, Sheridan and Ivanova about the Rangers. And, find out, well, was one other message, any other messages delivered from this Ranger? Yeah, to one other person. And we go in, and there's Delenn, and you hear the voice of Commander Sinclair, and it's, hello, old friend. So, and that episode ends. Lots of good, juicy stuff here. Things are kind of falling into place. We're going to be having a big old war pretty soon. In results to things falling into place, there are some other things that are falling into place as far as the script goes for the pilot episode of the new Babylon 5. I have posted an update on that in my update section, so please go ahead and check that out. Hope you all have a good rest of the day, and as always, like, comment, subscribe, and share. We are now over 50 subscribers. Yay! Let's get it to 100 by Christmas. I think with the holidays, especially when people are home from school and things of that nature, home from, Thanksgiving and Christmas and all of that stuff, we've got a really good chance of doing it. Anyways, thank you all for subscribing and getting us to the 50 plus marker. Hope you all have a good rest of your day.